Thanks for tuning in live to Proline TV. So our NASCAR coverage begins this Tuesday, July 22nd, 2025. CJ Radoon joining me as usual from rotowire.com as we get ready for the Brickyard, CJ. Second year back since NextGen. They took several years off. They went the road course route. That sucked. And they decided, hey, we'll try it with the NextGen. And it kind of worked. We'll get into it. Definitely better than before. We're hoping they'll do the same thing with the Roval and with Charlotte. They'll get rid of the Roval and add a second race again to Charlotte. But at least the racing was a little bit better last year. There was a controversial ending we'll get into. Typical NASCAR, screwing everything around for everybody. But again, in all, compared to the way it was pre-NextGen, I would consider it a success.
Yeah, I seem to recall it being a success, but again, I hesitate to say whether or not that's sustainable because, like you said, it was the first time back in the oval in a long time, and the road course was just not entertaining, except for, again, that first race. So there's always a novelty when you're doing something new. It's something we haven't done in a while, so we'll see if they can keep it up for a second year in a row.
Okay. Before we get into this week's race, and we'll update the playoff picture now every week, let's talk about what happened last week. And I'll start off by saying this. Chase Briscoe, we don't want you anymore in second place at the end of these races, at least for the next 5 races, because you suck. Okay. You have absolutely no aggression. I don't know what it is. It's just not good. And you're screwing it around for everybody else. Anybody else in second place last week, I think with his tires would have won the race in my mind. But look, it is what it is. And we got another typical Dover race anyway, where you just couldn't pass when you needed to at the front, and this, blocking, next gen ability is the one thing that does blow with this next gen car. But look, that's why you have to be aggressive, and some cars just don't want to be. And if they don't, then we get boring racing at the end, which we kind of had a little bit last week, couple of days ago, and it could have gone a little bit better, but it didn't.
It was amazing to me. I knew it was over once Chase Briscoe found his way into second place, but it was amazing to me how anybody could hang on with old tires. That never, ever used to be the case. In a place like Dover, you would want the 4 tires, and especially if you were starting on the second row, you should be able to rocket around those guys that are in front of you. That we just did not see that. I'm sure the rain had something to do with it. I'm sure the tire, it was a different tire. I think it was S. Cole last week that told us that Goodyear was bringing a different tire specifically for Dover because of all the problems that they'd had in the past. We just didn't see, we saw some of them, but we didn't see it to the extent that we usually do. And I don't think we saw as great of a fall off as we otherwise would have expected. Like 2 tires for Elliott probably in any other race weekend would have been the winning move on the old tire, but for whatever reason with this new one, it just didn't work last week at Dover.
And this is what happens too when you don't practice, not just because of the rain, but they didn't have any testing with the new tire.
Correct.
I mean, I don't know. We've gone over this before. I think in general, having limited testing and limited practices is actually better for the sport, makes things a little bit more opened up. Because the more practice you get, the better it is for the more experienced and smarter teams. And those are the bigger teams, and we don't want the bigger teams gobbling up all the wins. This is an F1. So, it is what it is, and I guess it didn't work out for us as fans last week. But unless you're a Denny Hamlin fan, then it worked out. Look, we talked about this a little bit before, and I still am not understanding why, but we grew up, and I think it was even just about 5 or 6 years ago, watching, or at least meaning grown up. I mean, I'm a little old now, and I started only watching in 20s. So, I mean, in 2000, so for 25 years. But during that period of time, I just recall for about the first 20 years how stressful it was with late restarts and cautions for the car that was leading to always have to worry about everybody pitting and him being stranded out there all alone, or he comes in pits and everybody stays out. I do not recall a scenario like that happening in years. It's like if the leader stays out, it's like 5 or 6 others are staying out, and whoever goes in just doesn't have enough because there's too many cars that stayed out because the car's in 25th. Nah, I'm going to move into the top 5 or top 10. I'm just going to get better track position, I guess. Whatever. And vice versa. He comes in and everybody stays. Why? Do you have an explanation for why all of a sudden this isn't happening? Because that was look, I'm not saying it would have worked out perfectly, but really, if it would have worked out the way it normally had in the past, Chase should have probably, came back in like in the second row in great position to take over for Denny, but he was just too far back. And I don't understand why they don't do this anymore.
Yeah, I agree. I don't necessarily have an explanation, but I think the cars with fresh tires were still close enough at a place like Dover with a rough concrete surface to have made an impact with the number of laps that were left. And they just didn't. They had 2 overtime restarts to try it. Every single time, Denny Hamlin outfoxed whoever was next to him. It didn't matter who it was. He got the jump and he had the teammate behind him pushing him. So he had the advantage, and that's why it worked. And then, those guys in the old days with the new tires would have been able to make up the ground in the corners and make the passes and be able to come through, and they just couldn't. Maybe an explanation is just the fact that, all kind of smart minds converge to a like point and they all kind of suffer from groupthink perhaps, but you're right. I can't recall a time where, and I remember frequently back in the day, but I can't recall a time frequently where the leader was the only one left on the track and everybody else pitted, and you had that opportunity to come up and start alongside him or directly behind. Like you said, usually you're starting, if you pit for fresh tires today, you're usually starting row 2, 3, 4, depending upon how lucky you are. But no explanation. I think the tire that Goodyear brought to Dover just didn't have enough degradation.
It wouldn't have mattered. Yeah,
more than likely. Which is what we've been complaining about. I think if you're going to make the racing better, I think you got to have a steeper cliff for tire fall off and tire degradation.
Okay, well, if anybody remembers and maybe has an actual reason, let us know. You can put that in the comments section live, or if you're watching on demand a little bit later on, we appreciate any input you have. Okay, so that was last week. Let's now go ahead and take a look. Anything else from last week, by the way? Except that it was boring. Typically boring for Dover.
It was typically boring, Dover. Can't wait to move on.
Okay, I like that. Let's move on. Okay, let's now go to the playoff picture. All right, here we go. So let's now move on to where it really matters. That is down here. Okay, so looks like, come on, stop jumping. Where are we? Okay, so Bowman looks like he's comfortable, right? 63, and even Buscher looks comfortable, 44?
Yeah, relatively speaking, unless we get somebody not named Reddick or Bowman winning a race, Buscher should be fine. I would think he's got a decent chunk there. He's certainly not going to be unstressed. He's definitely going to be feeling the stress. I think Reddick certainly is feeling very confident, and Bowman should be at this point as well. Only 5 races left until we get to the playoffs.
All right. Wallace, on the other hand, he needed that good run last week, which he got. That was good for him. And so he's up 16 now on Preece. And then you got Kyle and Gibbs. And, Gibbs is putting together a nice run. Kyle has done half of that, but it just doesn't look like there's enough time.
There's enough time if Priest starts having problems and Wallace starts having problems, obviously, because you've got to get Wallace unseated, but you got to get past Priest before then. I really like Gibbs's momentum. I really like Kyle Busch's momentum. They're doing all the things that they need to do, but at the same time, Wallace has been going out each and every week and figuring out a way to get stage points and figuring out a way to get a decent finish. And he may not be running up at the front, but the strategies that they call put him in position to grab points here and there. And that's been making the difference, which is why he's opened the gap on Ryan Preece. Now, having said that, we still have 5 races left, with one of them certainly being Daytona and another one at Watkins Glen. So you could very easily have somebody who is not named Reddick or Bowman win, which upsets this completely. Then you got
well, not at Watkins Glen, but
well, you never know.
We know who's going to win Watkins Glen.
We don't know that for sure. We don't know that for sure. But yes, but all it takes is one winner not named Reddick or Bowman, and then Wallace is out, and you've got Buescher sitting there with a 30-point margin, which that then becomes insurmountable.
Yeah, because Wallace is not a good road course driver, and Busch and Gibbs are.
Yep.
So, and even Preece has been better on the road. So yeah, so that is definitely something to keep in mind. And then everybody else here has no chance unless they get a victory that includes Brad Keselowski. By the way, there you see Ty Dillon, and the ties are going at it in this nutty contest for $1 million. So now we finally get to pay attention.
Yes.
And lo and behold, Ty Dillon is in the championship. Good for him, I guess. That's nice. Why not? I'd rather it go to Ty Dillon and anyone else, I guess. So now it's up to Gibbs and Dillon, and interesting because I believe, I don't know if I was, I forget where I was looking at it. I think it was last year's race. I believe Ty Dillon finished ahead of Gibbs at the Brickyard. So there's hope.
Yeah, Ty Dillon was 18th. Ty Gibbs was 23rd last year. So there's definitely hope. I said at the very beginning, it would only really matter when you get to maybe the semifinals and the finals. And again, that's really what now we're talking about.
Yeah, now we're talking about it.
And I also said back then that I really hope that it ends up going to one of the small teams. So again, I'm pulling for Ty Dillon on this one as well. I'd like to see one of the small teams get a big payday.
And I haven't seen any odds yet. I don't know why I'm not getting any odds for it. Maybe it's under the, no, it's not. I'm not getting any odds for the race. So anyway, I would think Gibbs would be obviously the favorite. I don't think there's any question about that. Let me see if this is in driver props. Here it is. Driver props. I'll pop that up now.
Likely negative, probably -3 with Dillon at a +2.
So you think Gibbs is -3 and Dillon's +2?
Yeah, I think Gibbs, I was exaggerating a little bit with Gibbs, but he should be in the negative territory. Yeah, there we go. I nailed it.
It's pretty good. So there you go.
I thought I was exaggerating with Gibbs. I guess not.
This is actually not bad if you want to go ahead and take Ty Dillon.
Yeah, I would go for that one.
Yeah, why not? 2-1, not the worst idea. Okay.
Had a lot of crashes in this race last year.
That there was. And yes, there were actually the first 3 occurred on restarts. So that could make things interesting. Okay, now let's talk about the track now. Regarding Indianapolis, the Brickyard here, what do you think? Because this is, I guess now that we have another race at Indianapolis, this style, no short track, no road course, that we have a similar track to compare to Pocono. So that's something that we can definitely go on, correct?
Yeah, long straightaways, 2.5-mile track. One of the turns at Pocono at turn 3 is actually modeled after Indianapolis's turns, 90 degrees, 9-degree banking in 90-degree radius, 9-degree banking in the turns. So very similar in terms of probably race strategy. Both have long straightaways, a little bit similar in setup. Obviously, Pocono's got 2 different turns, but the closest track certainly is Pocono at this point.
Okay, so taking a look at that, Let's see. What do we got here? Briscoe won Pocono, holding off Hamlin.
Well, there goes your please don't be at the front Briscoe comment.
Yeah, he'll be up there. They were both, of course, Toyotas, and he led 104 to 160 laps at Pocono. Blaney and Buescher finished third and fourth. So the two Fords, and throw in Keselowski, who finished ninth and led 27 laps in the race. And that was the race where he decided to take a pit when the pits were closed. And that screwed up his race when he was leading at the time. Meaning that just based on Pocono, Toyotas and Fords might be the way you want to take a look at. It's just a little bit of an observation there based on a little bit of data. And another reason would be fuel mileage, because we know this is going to be a potential, because it was last year. This was a fuel mileage race last year. And the two top teams for fuel mileage, you believe, are Joe Gibbs Racing and Penske.
Yeah, I would put Penske at the top of that. I think the Fords, just in general, have fantastic fuel mileage. They're able to save longer than Toyotas and Chevrolets. I think the drivers are exceptional at it as well. People like Ryan Blaney, Brad Keselowski, Chris Buescher, etc. I definitely would not discount them this week, though breathing down their neck on the strategy side is Denny Hamlin and Joe Gibbs Racing. I mean, they made the call last week, probably two or three calls last week with the rain coming, old tires versus new tires, when to go to pit road, when not to go to pit road. And they've been getting it right, and they've been getting it right for several weeks now. So for whatever reason, Joe Gibbs Racing, specifically Denny Hamlin, they are on top of their game in terms of calling strategy. But if you look over a longer course of history, you got to look at Team Penske, Ryan Blaney, Joey Logano, Brad Keselowski. Those are the cars.
Even Austin Cindric might be somebody to keep in mind.
Even Austin Cindric may be somebody to keep in mind this week as well. Fords just have a habit of being able to stretch their fuel longer.
You know, that decision by Gibbs with Hamlin is just another example. It's sort of like what we saw when I was complaining about with the early road course races with Van Gisbergen, and these teams are trying to do weird things, and they've got SVG in their heads, and it's causing them to make these other decisions. And I kind of feel that that's what happened on Sunday. I think Joe Gibbs, knowing, this is why he won Super Bowls. He understood that the law of averages, which basically said, look, it's a NextGen car. We're at Dover. We don't know about these tires. I've got clean air. I'm going with it. And yeah, why not? Especially when you have Denny Hamlin. That helps, as good as he is as a blocker when he's got the lead. But that's other teams are saying, nah, we're going to do this, and maybe this is the right strategy. But you need something to happen. See, every time these owners are making these decisions, they need something to happen, and that's why it's difficult. If you just go the other route, well, yeah, maybe it doesn't work out for you, but you're in control. And if everything works out, you're fine. You don't have to need anything to happen. You just keep doing what you're doing. These guys need stuff to happen, and that's what I think is part of this. So, and I'm mentioning this because I think, again, with this being a fuel mileage race, that's something that could very well come into play once again. So, because we saw it with Keselowski. Remember, I was just so irate at the end of that race last year. Remember that? When Keselowski decides to pit just at the last second, giving Larson the opportunity to move up on the inside and get the preferred row. And then the restart happens, and Larson takes off, and he's got the preferred line, and he takes the lead. And we could say what you want about the dumb not calling the caution when Ryan Preece was clearly not moving for about 15 seconds. And they wait till just when he gets past the white flag goes down, and okay, yeah, I guess it's time to call it. Look, Kyle Larson probably winning that race anyway because he was on the inside track, and so nobody was going to probably take him. But it still was very just frustrating watching Brad Keselowski duck down. Especially, remember we mentioned this, he was a Ford, and you're screwing another Ford by ducking down and taking the pits and then allowing Kyle Larson the track position and then the overall win, because Kyle Larson won the race, but he did not really have a winning car. He just had a winning car because they gave him the clean air at the perfect time.
Yeah, he only led 8 laps in comparison. Keselowski had led 35. Next highest was Tyler Reddick, or actually the highest was Tyler Reddick, who led 40, ended up finishing second.
All right, so there you are. That's something to keep an eye on regarding what we're going to be dealing with coming up. And we will be, of course, taking a look at these stats as we go along. As far as some more trends to keep an eye. Look, we only have last year. So Larson, even though he won, did he have a winning car? Probably not, but it does count. And so as far as his stats were concerned, he started in the 5th position. He practiced in the 6th position, and Toyota had the fastest cars all weekend. They had the top 2 in as far as qualifying, did 3 of the top 4 in final practice, and led the most laps in the race, 105 of 167. Chevy had 3 of the top 5 in qualifying, 2 of the top 6 in practice, and won the race, but only led 22 laps combined. Chevy drivers. Ford, meanwhile, did not have a driver in the top 6 in qualifying, but they had 3 of the top 8 in practice. They led 40 laps in the race. Blaney was clearly the top Ford. He was the fastest in practice, 7th, in qualifying 7th, and was the fastest in practice, 2nd, and finished 3rd in the race without leading a lap. So again, I know it's a little bit, not a whole lot to go on, CJ, but Toyota and Ford seem to have a little bit of an edge on Chevy.
Yeah, Ford definitely in the race. 4 Fords finished inside the top 10 in this race last year. Obviously, Chevrolet won, Toyota 2nd, Ford was 3rd. But Ford probably put more cars than any other. I'm trying to count here. Maybe Chevrolet tied them there at 4, but Ford with 4 in the top 10.
This is another interesting thing to keep an eye on, and that is, of note, there have been 28 races overall. We haven't had a race pre-NextGen. We had to go back to 2020, I believe. And Ford won those last 3 races, 18, 19, and 2020. Now, since we had a gap of a few years and we had some really veteran drivers that have now retired, that means that only Kyle Larson, Brad Keselowski, and Kyle Busch have ever won a cup race at the Brickyard. So that opens it up. I mean, there's a lot of drivers out there that really want to win this race.
And there are a lot of drivers that could win this race too. So I was surprised actually looking through that Denny Hamlin hadn't won. I would have figured by now he would have one. But surprisingly, he does not. So probably put him toward the top of the list in terms of favorites this weekend.
The Chevy situation, even though it doesn't look good at this point, based on what we talked about, keep in mind that pre-NextGen, they won 14 of 19 races, including they had won 12 straight at the Brickyard from 2003 to 2014. I think that was a lot of Jimmy Johnson, Jeff Gordon stuff. So that's obviously important. And also the farthest back anybody's ever won at the Brickyard over 28 races is 27th. Only 4 winners have started outside the top 16. That is 19th, 22nd, 24th, and 27th. 16 of 27 have started in the top 3 rows. That's 59%, with 7 on the front row and 5 pole sitters. So that gets us ready for the Brickyard and Pocono and all that stuff. Now let's go ahead and see what we're going to do this week with the odds and our analysis and our final picks. So, but I think you're right, CJ. I think the bottom line is, with the potential, with the fuel mileage and the way that there were a lot of different cars. I think there were like 7 drivers that led at least 8 laps last year, which is refreshing. That I think this could be a wide open race. This could be one of those races. Just look at how Kyle Larson won the race. And if this comes down to something similar, a few miles kind of deal, it opens it up for a whole bunch of different characters. So I think that could be very, very interesting. Who do you think is the favorite?
I'll go with Denny Hamlin.
There he is. He's taken over.
Barely.
Denny Hamlin. Oh, and I agree with it, don't you?
Yeah, he's definitely the one that's got the most momentum behind him right now. Every single strategy call seems to be going their way. I haven't seen any kind of mistakes. Anybody that comes up and challenges him, he gets very aggressive in a way that enables him to keep the spot and keep the other folks at bay. So I think he has definitely earned status of favorite, unlike usually when we're talking about Kyle Larson, who just because he's Kyle Larson, he's a favorite.
Yeah, it's refreshing, no doubt about it. Just want to see here. You're still getting 9-1 on Chase Elliott,
which is amazing considering he is now your points leader.
Yes. So look, here's my advice. If you like to every once in a while put down $100 on a future, my advice is go ahead, put $100 on Chase Elliott right now to win the championship at 9-1. Okay. If he wins the championship, you got $1,000. So there you go. That's my advice because I would do it. I'm going to do it. So I think it's a really good deal and it's going to completely go away if he wins another race. So you got the clock is ticking. So as soon as he wins that second race, it's over. You're not going to get anything close to 9-1 again. All right. Who's after Hamlin and by the way, as far as these two, and we mentioned, of course, Hamlin nearly winning Pocono. He finished in second. He led 32 laps. And it was the same situation. Hamlin, it was like the reverse we just saw in a way with Briscoe and with, even though that was Bell was really also behind Hamlin for a while, but it was kind of reversed. It was Denny Hamlin just couldn't get past Chase Briscoe for anything at Pocono, and it just could not pass him. And it had nothing to do with Briscoe being a faster car. They were just equally fast, but you just can't pass, at these big tracks like this. You got to have that fresh air.
Yeah, track position, very important here. But again, there are ways that you can gain track position. That's through unscheduled cautions. That's through strategy calls, fuel saving, restarts, things of that nature. But obviously, it always helps to start up front. You had the top three finishers start 5th, 1st, and 7th. It wasn't until you got to the 4th place where you started seeing some drivers that came from the outside of the top 10 there. But again, like I said, this race had a lot of crashes last year, a lot of cars knocking out, 10 cautions for 34 laps across the entire span. And I wouldn't be surprised, just based on this track, the way that it runs with the walls, unique turns. I wouldn't be surprised if that happens again.
All right. Now, Larson did finish 4th last week. One of the situations where, because of that stupid metric deal, Larson started 25th, I think, and Blaney started 31st or something. So they both ended up in the top 10. And I think, right, Blaney in top 10. Larson, meanwhile, had a quick chance to win, but that clearly went away pretty fast. So maybe that gets his momentum going again. As we said, it only takes one from a really good driver like Larson, but he is defending champ. He'd have to win 2 straight. We know how difficult that is, especially at a race that has a lot of different variables. Who's next?
Either Reddick or Bell. Probably, I would say Bell, but I wouldn't be surprised if it's Reddick.
Okay, let's see.
Blaney, he would have been my dark horse choice. Byron's up there. That's surprising. And Elliott makes more sense than Byron. What?
Yeah, Chase Briscoe is the man now. So watch out for Chase Briscoe at 11-1. He went from being in the 20s and 30s all year, and now he was 16 last week, and now he's 11 this week. So your value is just not there for Chase Briscoe. So again, remember, if you're betting on Chase Briscoe, just remember you better be in first.
Yeah,
because he's not going to do what you want. You want your driver to be tough. You want him to be aggressive. You want him to be, and you really would like for him to have no wins too, if that's possible. That he's going to do anything it takes in order to win that race. And Chase Briscoe is obviously at this point not that driver. So, okay.
Yeah, I like Blaney up there. I like Elliott. Byron still, he's only got the one win. He's lost the points lead now. He's not as hot. Last week was a pretty decent week for him, but again, that's one. He's not Kyle Larson that can turn it around on one race. I might be surprised. Maybe I'll eat my words. Briscoe definitely gaining some momentum with a couple of good races here over the past couple of weeks. Obviously, the success at Pocono, this is a similar track for him. I think he's driving better than he has and better than I expect at this point, but I don't know if that I would put him necessarily above somebody like a Reddick, a Bell, a Blaney at this point. Definitely not an Elliott either.
Briscoe's 20-1 to win the championship. What do you think about that? Is that a good long shot play?
If he continues with the momentum that he's had these last 2 or 3 weeks, then yes, I would say that's a good value. But keeping that up through the next 15 races,
yeah,
it's going to be very difficult.
Yep. That's what Hamlin also has to do.
Yep.
We know how quickly momentum could change.
I wonder if Hamlin, if he's getting too much right now. That's my only concern with him. He's just too good right now. I'd prefer to see that in 5 races from now.
Yeah, and his, and you saw some of those odds with the championship odds. If you're 4-1, 5-1, like Hammond, Larson, those guys, just don't bet on those guys right now. There's just no reason to it. No reason to do it. The odds aren't going to drop that much, if at all. So, unless Hammond wins 5 straight races or something, which ain't happening. So you're just better off just waiting, because if anything, it could get where you get into a little bit of a slump, and therefore maybe you get a better number. Okay. So, yeah, as far as this group, look, Byron averages 25.8 in his last 7 on the season, and he was 27th at Pocono, and he was in a wreck last year in this race. This is one of those early actually, I think it was the first one. It came, I think, might have come in early stages of the second or late first. I forget. I think it was early second, and it was one of those deals that he just got caught up in. There you go. I mean, he didn't do anything wrong. It's just that he got caught up in a nothing wreck, and he was done. Meanwhile, you see Elliott 10th last year. He was leading when he pit, and this was about 50, 60 laps to go. And while he was in the pits, Truex spun out, put the caution out. He came out 20th, Elliott. And I think that definitely affected him, because he never got back in position again. He's 6th or better in 5 of his last 6 with the win. He was 5th at Pocono. And again, as you mentioned, he's the points leader. So he is definitely one to watch. And I'd much rather, the way he's going right now, I would just much rather take Elliott than, say, Larson. But Hamlin at this point at 4-1, especially, I think we've had now 3 races. I don't know, at least the last 3 where we've had chalk. So yeah, we've had 3 straight races of chalk. So I don't like that trend. And that means maybe there's no reason to say that Denny Hamlin can't go out there and win. So if you want to put money on Hamlin at 4-1, I have no problem with that. I think this is as good as a time to ever do that with a short price. But Elliott, you're getting double the money just in case you want it. Blaney, the same thing. 3rd last year, as we mentioned. And don't forget, he did a great job in that race. Logano was wrecked. Hocevar tries to squeeze his car into 3. Of course, Carson Hocevar. And he winds up causing a wreck, which actually wrecked Logano. And Blaney had to save his car. It looked like he was going to wreck. And he did a great job to save his car, and he ends up in 3rd. And by the way, at the end of that race, it looked like it was going to be a really good duel. Keselowski was leading, Blaney was 2nd, Larson was 3rd, and they're just going at it. And there's the laps are dropping, and then Kyle Busch winds up spinning out with just a few laps to go, brings out the caution, and then all the madness ensued after that. But that would have been nice to see. We got robbed of it. It always seems like we're getting robbed of these really great finishes at the end of races, but that's NASCAR. Blaney, of course, coming off the 8th last week, also 3rd at Pocono. So 3rd last year in this race, 3rd at Pocono, 8-1 Blaney. I think that's a good number for him. And Briscoe, second the last 2 weeks, as you said, CJ, and also winning the race at Pocono, leading 72 laps. So Blaney, Elliott, and Briscoe, good choices here. But I don't think you're getting much value on Briscoe. So I think Elliott and Blaney probably the way to go out of that group.
Completely agree. I like Elliott's 5 out of the last 6 being 6th place finishes or better, plus one of the his Pocono stop being a 5th place finish as well. It really on form right now. They're not making mistakes. I think his problem last week at Dover was that he just spent too much time out front at the beginning, didn't have his car in traffic, didn't really have to battle anything, so they weren't aware of what changes they would need to make to be able to be competitive at the end, and I think that showed. Hopefully they learned something from that this week, and I think Elliott's poised for good success at Indianapolis, but I definitely would not discount Ryan Blaney in the Ford either. I think he's going to be a really strong competitor, certainly a top 5, if not a potential winner here on Sunday as well.
Yeah, I get the feeling Blaney is itching for another win. Meanwhile, Elliott, we talked a lot this season, not about a month or so ago, about, Elliott, he's top 5 in points, but he's not leading laps and all that. Well, now he's leading laps and winning races, which is, again, why I don't understand how he's 9-1 to win the championship with the name Elliott as well. So you're getting a bargain there. Okay. How about these 4, Reddick and Bell and Buscher, especially Reddick and Bell are really considered still, at the top there as far as contenders are concerned. Out of this group, Buscher's actually the only one that sticks out for me that I would look at.
Logano, if you weren't in such a kind of a rut right now, Christopher Bell, obviously mistake prone. We saw it last week. We're all racing for the lead, ended up spinning. He's fast, but continues to make mistakes, unlike teammate Denny Hamlin, who just is executing right now and making all the right calls, seemingly can't do anything wrong. Tyler Reddick has definitely also been showing speed recently, but he's prone to mistakes as well. So we'll see how that plays out with him this week. Last year, he started on pole, ended up leading 40 laps. As we talked about, the Toyotas were really strong last year. Probably out of this bunch, I think I'd go with Chris Buescher, just because Ford, fuel mileage. Chris Buescher has won strategy races before at Pocono, so no reason why he couldn't do it at Indianapolis again. Very similar track as we talked about. So Buescher, I would put on top, probably Reddick second, then Bell and Logano. Yeah,
I agree with that. Reddick, I just don't like his odds. That's why I would take Buescher as the driver there. 9.7 average in his last 7 on the season, including a 4th at Pocono, and you're getting 18-1. Now down to 14-1, by the way. His odds were 18-1 just a couple hours ago. So he's now dropped to 14-1, which is not very good, but that just shows you that they're putting money on him. And Reddick, as you said, a real solid finish last year. And the only thing is he didn't really do anything at Pocono, but
he's racing better now. He's racing better now than Pocono. He was in a slump that has turned around. So that is definitely something consider this weekend.
Yeah, I would definitely take Reddick over Bell. Bell has just 2 top 5s in his last 9 on the season, 17th at Pocono. He was 4th here last year. And I don't know what the hell happened to Bell at Dover last week, spinning out twice. He made things interesting by spinning out twice, but I don't know. It just shows you again why you got to be hot at certain times of year. And he was red hot earlier in the year, and he's definitely cooled off, but he still has time to get hot again. Okay. So Keselowski is not a bad idea. Out of this group, he's definitely the one that sticks out to me because, again, we told you what he did here last year. He came very close to winning. He might have won if Busch did not spin out. And then throw in the fact that he's got 4 top 10s in his last 7 on the year with a runner-up at Atlanta. He was also, as we talked about, 9th at Pocono, leading when he decided to pit when he shouldn't have. So that combination says, you know what, this is not a bad long shot. Desperate for a win, has to win to get to the playoffs. I definitely like Keselowski at 25-1. I didn't think I'd ever say that this year, but hey, it is what it is. Gibbs, meanwhile, has an 8.0 average in his last 7 races, 5th last week. He was 14th at Pocono, and that bothers me a little because he did not have a good race last year at Brickyard, also had engine issues. Nothing at Pocono. Is very disappointed with his Pocono run. And I also, wonder whether or not Gibbs is going to be more concerned with Ty Dillon than he is with the race. So I don't blame him. So I think that that's another thing that to keep in mind. Chastain, meanwhile, I don't like Chastain at all here. No way. 23.6 average in his last 6 races, including 26 at Pocono. Didn't do much last year. He did lead 8 laps, but that was about it in this race last year. And Kyle, even though Kyle has good history here, things are just not working out for Kyle as far as these tracks. 25th last year, 20th at Pocono. I don't know. Kyle needs to win. We know pretty much. You think he needs to win to get in, and I just don't know if this is the track with this team to get it done.
Yeah, it's an interesting kind of choice here. Keselowski definitely stands head and shoulders above all of the rest. Ty Gibbs, you're getting somebody who's got 7th or better place finishes in the last 3 races, so he's on a little bit of a momentum run here. However, he still has yet to win a race. We've been expecting him to win now, coming up on almost 3 complete years now, and he's just not getting out there and leading laps. I would have expected him to have been leading laps at Dover, a significant amount of laps, and he's just not doing that right now. So yeah, he's fast, and yeah, he's getting good results, but like we talked about with Elliott, you got to take it up a notch, and you actually got to get out front, and you got to be leading these races. Ross Chastain maybe would be interesting to me if he qualifies well. Last year in this race, he started pretty deep in the field. I want to say outside of the top 20, 28th, but he ended up clawing his way forward 13 spots and finished 15th. So maybe if he qualifies inside the top 20, maybe even the top 15, he might be somebody to look at. But like you said, he's also in a very poor run of form right now. Just the whole Trackhouse organization, it seemed like since they announced that Suarez was leaving next year, it seemed like all of them have kind of taken a dip other than SVG whenever we're on a road course. So Keselowski head and shoulders, maybe Chastain, depending on where he qualifies. Gibbs, I like that comment. Gibbs is a sleeper this weekend. I don't necessarily disagree with that. Definitely on a good run of form with his 3 top finishes in the last 3 weeks. We'll see if he's able to get out front and lead some laps this weekend.
Okay, next group. Hocevar, Berry, Wallace, and Cindric. And Raymond is going all out on Josh Berry.
Josh Berry.
And,
Ford. The Ford,
what's that?
Penske,
Ford.
Penske affiliate. Yeah.
And he is.
Weekend as well.
Yeah, he was another that was involved in a chain reaction wreck last year after a restart. So he just was just in the wrong place at the wrong time, late in the race. 12th at Pocono. Meanwhile, out of this group overall, Hocevar had a solid 12th here last year, but remember, as I said before, he caused that wreck by trying to make it 3 wide, typical Carson Hocevar stuff. And look, for Hocevar to win at some point this year, he's just going to have to go out and just win. I mean, because he's not going to do it by averaging it out over 5 or 6 races. He's just not doing that. And that's not really to be expected because of his, the newness of him in the Cup Series is still there. So, but we know he can do it. I don't know. I mean, if you had to pick one race in the next 5 for Carson Hocevar to win, which one do you think is his best shot?
Daytona.
Oh, okay. That's pretty bad. So the real obvious one, Daytona. Okay.
Yeah. You asked for what the best one would be. If you take Daytona out of the picture, probably Iowa, I would say.
You think he has a chance at Iowa?
Yeah, I would say so. He's run pretty well at the intermediate ovals.
Okay.
Shown some speed. Again, with him and the team, it's all about calling the right strategy and not making mistakes. And I think the important thing to note about Carson Hocevar this weekend in particular at Indianapolis, he finished 12th last year, but that came from the 30th starting position too. So he had some speed here last year. But again, I think this team just needs execution and not making the mistakes. If they're able to do that, expect him to have a top 15, top 10 finish.
So would Nashville, would that be considered like a similar track to Iowa?
Yeah, Kansas. I forget the exact distance of Iowa. I want to say it's not completely a 1.5 mile. Is that the one that's 1.3?
Yes,
miles?
it's 1.4. Well, then again, mileage, actually it's less than a mile.
Iowa. Oh gosh, what am I thinking about?
Yeah, Nashville is the one that is 1.3. Yeah, 1 1/3.
Yeah, so I changed that. It's not going to be Iowa for Hocevar. Yeah, Iowa 0.875. Why was I not thinking? I was obviously getting it confused with Nashville. I would put Nashville is not in the next 5 races, but I would say Nashville would be a good one for him.
No, Nashville was the one that he finished second at.
Yeah, we got Kansas coming up here in September. Again, not in the 5 races.
Oh, okay.
But
so Kansas okay. All right. But these next 5 races, none of these races look good to you for Hocevar, except if you can do it at Daytona.
No, I was obviously confused on Iowa. I was thinking that was intermediate track. If you want to take Daytona out of the equation, you want to expand more than 5 races, then based on what he did at Nashville, I would definitely put him in at Kansas.
Okay. All right. Let's see. So in this group, the other 2 to keep an eye on are Wallace and Cindric, because Wallace had a nice run last week. He was 5th here last year, led 26 laps. He never had a chance at Pocono from start to finish of the weekend. So just scratch that out. And he was 7th last week again. So I think Wallace at 40-1, now down to 35-1, is not a crazy long shot. And Cindric, he was 7th last year. He started 38th in the race because of unapproved adjustments and was 10th at Pocono. So I think both Wallace and Cindric are probably not bad long shots to keep an eye on.
Yeah, Cindric stands out for me for one, obviously a Penske Ford, but exactly like you said, he started so far back in the field, but ended up coming all the way to finish inside the top 10, 7th, biggest mover of the race last year. So Cindric definitely stands out. We like teammate Blaney as well. Bubba Wallace won the 2nd stage here last year. So for me, he was one that started quick early, but maybe had the Elliott syndrome from Dover, didn't necessarily make the right adjustments or moves toward the end, so slipped down just slightly to end up finishing 5th from a starting spot of 17th. I would probably rank them, for me, probably Cindric, probably Wallace, then Barry, then Hocevar, I would say. And Hocevar, the only reason I would put him 4th of the bunch is just because of the mistakes, either bad calls from a strategy standpoint, and this may come down to making the right calls on pit road, or causing a crash or getting involved in a crash, something like that.
Okay. All right. Bowman is one more before we get to the deep long shots, and Bowman is a good long shot at 40-1. He was involved in a wreck. That was real late, though. That was one of those late wrecks last year, so he really wasn't a contender to win. But he was 3rd last week. He now has an 8.0 average in his last 6. So once again, Bowman's got some nice run going. We'll see if he can continue that, because he was able to do it early in the playoffs last year. Again, I think he's a nice long shot championship driver. And then you've got 11th at Pocono. He led 15 laps there. So I like that, considering you're getting 40-1. And then these other drivers are also interesting. Suarez was 8th last year in the race, 15th at Pocono. And let's see. Priest, meanwhile, also involved in a wreck late last, he was the one that spun out, that we all really wondered why NASCAR was waiting forever to see if he could restart his car on the overtime. He was 8th at Pocono. So Priest is sitting there with a Ford at 90-1. John Hunter Nemechek, check this out. He led 16 laps last year into Brickyard before he was involved in a late crash. 6th at Pocono. So John Hunter Nemechek's interesting also at 90 to 1. 90 to 1. So out of these drivers, all four of them have something interesting about them. Kevin seems to want to go on the Daniel Suarez watch this week. And hey, why not? He's 80 to 1. And that would be a neat story at the Brickyard.
That would be huge money. And somebody who's driving for his future, too. We just talked about him and the team kind of taking a slump since that news was announced. But this is a place where obviously he did extremely well last year, started 25th and came all the way up to finish 8th. Hunter Nemechek, yeah, started qualified 10th, led 16 laps. Great for him, ended up getting caught in a crash. Bowman, I think, obviously, I don't know. It varies by the week. It wouldn't surprise me if he was up there in the top 5. It also wouldn't surprise me if we didn't hear his name called all day. So I just don't know what to expect, though he is on a pretty decent run of form right now. I think he's had a couple of weeks where he has had some good finishes. Certainly last week at Dover was one of those. Nemechek or Suarez, probably top for me, then Bowman, and then Priest.
Okay. And then we got a few more long shots to go. And really, I think we've been through any of the really good ones. They still have Shane Van Gisbergen at 100 to 1 for some really strange, unknown reason, because he really showed it again last week.
Talk about Ricky Stenhouse Jr. He qualified 9th, finished 11th. He finished in the top 10 in both stages last year, so he was a pretty consistent top 10 guy last year. That would be another good story, certainly at those odds.
Okay. Gregson ended up with a top 10 last year. And here's all the others. Gilliland, didn't he finish in the top 10 last year?
Gilliland was 6th after starting 24th. Yep, another Ford there.
Look at Dylan, 400 to 1. He's at the bottom, like the absolute bottom. And he is in this race for $1 million. That is that's anyway. We all hope he wins.
We do.
Because that would really be worth it then. Okay. Second place, you get nothing, right? I guess.
As far as I know, nothing. Yeah.
Okay.
I think it's a $1 million winner take all.
Okay, good. All right. Who picks first? Me?
You are first this week.
All right. Pick time. Let's see. Let's go with, well, this is either going to be, look, I'm not going to go with the obvious one with Hamlin. But you know what the deal is with Hamlin out there. I mean, like I said, he's going to be 4 to 1 or something like that. It's a low number. If you want to go with a low number, I have no problem with that. But I'll try to make things interesting and go with Blaney as my top choice.
I'll go a little bit different than I normally would. Would probably go for Hamlin just based on the run of form that he's on, but 2 in a row is a little bit much, so give me Elliott.
Yeah, I agree. That would have been my second choice too. Okay. Now I will go. I tell you what, I'm going to go ahead with Keselowski.
I'll go Reddick.
Okay. And that leaves super long shots for me. And I will, let's see. For me, it'll be between Wallace Bowman and John Hunter Nemechek. So I'm not going to go that crazy with John Hunter Nemechek. So it's between Wallace and Bowman. And I will take Bowman.
For me, similar. It's between Cindric and Ricky Stenhouse Jr. I think odds are more likely for a Cindric to do well, though. So give me Cindric as my last.
So Stenhouse Jr., that's your big long shot.
That would be my big one. Yeah. Started 9th, finished 11th last year. Didn't lead any laps, but he was consistent in the top 10 all afternoon.
I like it.
Do it again.
Okay. And yeah, I get my long shot. My big one will be John Hunter. So I'll do a John Hunter as a big long shot. You've got Stenhouse as a big long shot. And there you go. Those are our picks for the race. That's our NASCAR coverage for this week. It is just about almost time for CJ to take his hat off. But before he does, I want to remind everybody that Kevin will have his report. Usually comes out on Fridays or Saturdays, and look out for that. Don't forget to subscribe. Okay, subscribing is important. That's how we pay the bills here, so we can do this for you for free. Also, let's see. I will be on the air on Saturday to give you the starting lineup report after qualifying and practice, and hopefully we won't have any rain. And then I think that's it, because CJ, you're going to be out. Well, yeah, what we'll do is I'll definitely take, because we're going to be talking F1 in just a minute. I'll be taking those F1 reports and putting them on one of the other channels so you can check that out. But just if you follow us on social media, that's also a really good way for you to know whenever we post our shows. We always spit them out on social media. So follow us there. We got the links in the description for all of that. You are going to have reports, DFS best bet reports from rotowire.com for both series. And that usually comes out on Friday. Is that correct?
Yeah, we'll try to get the Formula One up sometime on Thursday. If not, it'll be very early on Friday. And then we'll get the Cup version up for Indianapolis, rotowire.com, DFS best picks preview sometime on Friday.
All right. Very nice. So there you go. I have no idea what time I'll be on Saturday, but looks like the way things have been going, it's been going at about a 4 o'clock-ish type of deal. So as long as it stays that way, that's probably when I'll be on talking about it. Okay. So that's our NASCAR talk. Now, if anybody is into F1, we're going to start talking F1. There you go. The hat's off. And let me make the switch over to F1. Where am I? There we go. All right. So what's that?
It's magic.
Yeah, oh yeah, it is. It's technology today is amazing. So let's talk some F1, and we're going to do that by, I guess, before we talk about the race in Belgium coming up, there was a big story between the last time we spoke in a few weeks regarding F1, and it was not on the track, but it happened off the track when Red Bull fired Christian Horner, and so he is no longer the man in charge at Red Bull. Apparently, this was not a big surprise. So what did you think about it?
It was a surprise, but like you said, it wasn't a big surprise. I think with all the turmoil around Max Verstappen, we talked about it last year, and Jos Verstappen's comments and the power struggle within Red Bull, the whole scandal with inappropriate behavior with Christian Horner and other people at the organization last year that we talked about as well. Or maybe that was even earlier this year. I'm not exactly sure. I think it was last year. But
yeah, F1 season's pretty long. Yeah.
Yeah, it goes on forever. And it seems like it starts right again when you finish your races in December and then start again 3 months later. From a testing standpoint, it all kind of runs together. But so long story short, it wasn't unexpected. I think the timing of it was a surprise. Usually you would wait until you get to the next 2 races. After that, you've got the summer break. So why wouldn't you do a major move when you've got 3 weeks to put the right pieces in place and do everything behind the scenes without disrupting the flow for the final 2 races before you get to that big long summer break? We've got Belgium this weekend and Hungary next weekend, and literally you've got a guy who's now been in the job, Lauren Meckes, for like a week and a half now.
It's like they already have written off the year. That's what it seems like to me.
Yeah, so it's one of 2 camps of thought. Number one is in order to keep Max Verstappen and turn things around, the organization has to show that they're really serious about making some major moves. So they go ahead and they let
That's smart.
Or go and take a new direction. The other camp of thought is that Max Verstappen has already decided that he's leaving. And if he's already decided that he's leaving, then you blame Christian Horner and you get somebody in seat that can redirect the ship before you get to the new regulations next year.
And
so
that's smart too.
Probably one of those two things.
Yeah.
Could be either one of them. There's been a lot of speculation since Horner was fired as to whether or not Verstappen has been meeting up with Toto Wolff from Mercedes about taking one of their seats. Speculation is that continued poor performance on Red Bull's side would trigger a contract clause where Verstappen can opt out and go somewhere where he would like, which ultimately probably the best seat available might be Mercedes at this point if McLaren's not available, since they're locked up with their two drivers. So very interesting to see how it plays out over the next couple of weeks and months. It was a bold move. I think that kind of hurts Red Bull and Verstappen for this weekend, not having Christian Horner in seat for this race, somebody brand new at the helm. So we'll see how they fare in Belgium. I think a podium finish this week for them would be a crowning achievement. It's going to be a struggle for them to get there, though, I think.
So, I mean, what do you think about, like, if you, for the fans, would it be more beneficial, do you think, for Verstappen to team up with a George Russell Mercedes, or would it be better for him to stick right here? And if so, don't you think that also has a lot to do with who they do intend to bring in as a partner? Because there's no way, I can't imagine Max wants to stay there if they're just going to bring in another guy who doesn't have any experience, isn't not like the next great thing. I mean,
Red Bull definitely needs to prove to Verstappen that they're on the right track and that they've got the right decisions and right people and equipment in place for the rules change next year. And if he went to Mercedes, he would not be partnering with George Russell. He'd be partnering with Antonelli. George Russell would be the one that would be gone. Antonelli is viewed as a Mercedes guy for the future, whereas Russell's kind of been there for a little while. Yeah, he's established and he's an elder statesman, but you're going to want to switch out him for somebody like Max Verstappen versus letting your young future talent go somewhere else.
Okay. All right. Interesting. We'll have more of that coming up real soon. So whenever something happens that makes it interesting, especially for a race. So what do you like this week? Give us a winner. Pick us a winner. Give us the best way possible to try to make some money this week.
As expected, you're getting even odds for Piastri and Norris, and most likely one of them is going to finish first and the other will finish second. My choice this week is Piastri. Last time out at Silverstone home track, I picked Lando Norris. I wanted to give the hometown guys a boost, and Piastri, lo and behold, made a mistake, ended up getting penalized, and that gifted the win to Norris. So we ended up getting it right last week as well. Piastri, I think, returns to form this week at Belgium, so he would be my top pick as an outright winner. I think, given it's Belgium, given that it has a tendency to rain at this track, has some weird weather conditions, potentially cold, I think your long shot pick might end up being George Russell and Mercedes. And then I think from a longer shot perspective, there's a lot of positive bubble around the Italian press about the upgrades that Ferrari is bringing to the car, and they just tested out on a filming day a couple days ago. So Ferrari would be a surprise. Maybe you see them fighting for a podium, but I think from a top pick, it's going to be McLaren and it's going to be Piastri. From a long shot perspective, you're going to want to go with Russell and Mercedes.
Okay, there you go. And Mercedes was, what was that, 14, I believe I saw that?
Yes.
And Russell is, 18. Yeah. So that is a long shot for Russell. He's used to being a little bit higher on the mark. So sometimes he's right behind Verstappen, but okay.
Yeah, they're putting, it looks like they're putting Hamilton and Leclerc ahead of him, which means they are buying into the reports that the Ferrari upgrades are what they seem. I'm not so sure. I think we're going to get some mixed weather conditions. Prove it to me on track. And I think with the cold weather and rain, I think Russell and Mercedes end up shining. However, they're going to have it all to do to beat McLaren and Piastri anyway, because McLaren's just been best in every situation and every track so far this season.
And with last thing, is this a good week or not a good week to take McLaren at -300?
This week, I would definitely take McLaren at -300. Again, with the drivers, you're kind of flipping a coin. Likely to finish 1-2, if not both, certainly on the podium this weekend. Even if it rains, even with the weird weather conditions, I think with the weird weather conditions, it brings Russell more into play. But even still, McLaren has the advantage, so I would go with the -300 on McLaren.
And look, you can always hedge your bet by taking Russell because he's 18-1.
Yep.
So make sure to do that if you go -300 on McLaren. That's going to wrap it up. Next week, I believe that is where we are going to turn attention to Iowa. And then there will be just 4 races to go. So we'll be updating the playoffs each week. Don't forget to check me out on Saturday when I go over the qualifying and practice results. Check out Kevin's video for his picks. He's also going to give a matchup pick. Maybe I'll see if I can have him give the pick for the Gibbs Dillon race. And then we'll be back again next Tuesday. And don't forget, one of these Sundays, especially if we're going to have like some dramatic finish like we had last week in Indianapolis, maybe I'll pop on late in the race and have a little post-race fun. That's something that we're definitely going to do soon, especially if things go as scheduled. When CJ and I do a live report, just a half hour left with the race at Daytona. All things scheduled right now, weather permitting and all that, but we'll keep updating everybody to let you know if that is still on schedule, which so far, 5 weeks out, it is. So CJ, appreciate your time as always. And looking
Absolutely.
out, don't forget to look out for CJ's report. Both of them coming out in just a few days. And we'll have it listed on the videos right here on the channel. So CJ, we'll talk next week.
Sounds good. Thanks for having me.
You got it.